But here it is. Enjoy. Sing along if you know it. But it says a lot about you if you know it. Of course, pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. You know, they got in big trouble over this. I mean, they were, worshiping Satan and such when the news came out. Really well-written song. He says, just as every cop is a criminal, all the sinners saints, as heads as tails, just call me Lucifer, because I'm in need of some restraint. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, have some taste. Use all your well-learned politeness, or I'll lay your soul to waste. And then the last verse, he says this. Tell me, baby, what's my name? Tell me, honey, can you guess my name? I tell you one thing. You're to blame. Boom. So the song really wasn't a salute to the horned one. But throughout the song, he's indicating almost what the Hindus would indicate. Now, you may wonder, why would I play that? Well, I wanted to, and then the other reason is because... The other reason is because my grandmother used to tell me, that little voice in your head, Billy, is Satan. And when you're sleeping, Satan is awake, scheming how he can get you and pull you into hell with him. And so she firmly believed that, and she thought that was a good bedtime story. Now, when you take a wide-angle look at history, and I'm not sure, if you look at surveys, if you talk about conservative Christian people, they will say 95% of the people believe in Satan. I've seen other surveys saying if you look at the American population, 20% of the people believe in Satan. So I don't know where you are on any of that, but you'll know where I am by the time I'm finished here. But if you take a wide-angle look, this whole Satan, devil kind of thing is pretty recent as far as human populations, meaning, a few thousand years. 5,000 years ago, I'm just going to give you a real quick history lesson and then go into something else, but 5,000 years ago on the west bank of the Nile, the Egyptians were worshiping a god called Seth. Now Seth was a good-looking god as far as gods go, and he was the god of the desert, the god of chaos, and the god of darkness. And he could be very, very violent, crazy violent. And he got angry with his brother Osiris, killed him, cut him into little pieces. So you see, that's pretty violent. And yet, at the same time, he was strong and virile, and so the Egyptians worshipped him. Because they didn't see him as totally evil. They said, this is a complex God here, and it's like good and evil, just two sides of the same coin, you see. So it's not like this guy's 100% evil. He was complex, like people. And so not totally good, not totally bad, just doing his thing, cutting his brother up and, getting rid of him. Down the road, not very far, was the massive Egyptian temple called Karnak. And it was devoted to several gods. And one of my favorite ones, and you've seen the picture, is Mut. She is one hot babe. She looks like a lion. She has a lion head, and so you've seen that if you've seen Egyptian gods at all. And her name means powerful one. And she had two sides. She could be very calm and mothering. Come, suckle at my breast. She would say. I'm not saying that. She would say. But then if something happened, she could turn around in a moment, lash out, and be bloodthirsty and kill thousands of people, they said. All the Egyptian gods were pretty easy to handle. You could appease them. You could give them the right gift, give them the right stuff. Moot loved Budweiser. She actually loved beer, Egyptian beer. And so as long as you were feeding her the beer, she was calm and quite mothery. But the thing I want you to know is they didn't consider her evil. She wasn't evil. She was, good, evil, sort of like people. But the funny thing is, as you look at these gods, if you look at the physical characteristics, guess who they begin to look like? Your devil. So that's interesting, if you begin to put all that together. There was another Greek god that I sort of enjoyed reading about, named Pan. Now, Pan had hairy legs, horns, and hooves as feet. So does that sound like any pictures maybe you've seen? And of course, you know horns and all that kind of stuff. Pan was associated with nature and music and fertility. This was one hairy-legged guy. I mean, he was complex, he was playful, but he could be really exceedingly bad. Pan. Our word panic comes from that word. And so it's a scary thing. But the people loved to hang out and party at his place. He lived outside, a big lake in there, and there was a lot of caves. He hung out in the caves. Dancing girls, Bob. You know the music they were doing? Festive, eating. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Eating, dancing, orgies are taking place. And that went on until about the 7th century BC, until the Muslims came in and said, don't do that. And so they went. But even though Pan could do some really bad stuff, not purely evil. Do you know how you can really get something who's really evil? Let me tell you this first. Because, we're going to visit a Hindu temple today. So our children are, and I'm going to go. And so we're visiting a Hindu temple. Hindu people have thousands of gods. You ask a Hindu who's well-versed, how many gods do you have? Many. Well, over 100? Many more. Over 1,000? Oh, many more. It's an endless number. Some of their gods, Kali and who's the other one? Shiva. Ooh, Shiva, the god of destruction. Shiva runs around sometimes with a necklace of human skulls. She's kind of mean. And then the other guy's kind of mean. They're all mean sometimes. And then you ask the Hindu, well, which one is the devil? Even with all of those gods, they don't have a devil. What's up with that? I mean, if you got thousands and thousands, you should have at least one Lucifer, evil, kind of thing. But they don't have one. You know what you have to have in order to have a devil? You know what you have to have in order to have 100% evil being? You have to have a perfect being. You have to have a 100% perfect being. That brings me to the Jews. The Jewish people were the first people to say there's only one God. They proclaimed there's only one God and He's all good. Then people looked around and said, well, why are bad things happening? And they had to come up with an answer, and they did. And the answer they came up with was, well, it slowly evolved at least into what many of us have heard as Satan or the devil. And if you look at all these other gods and you look at their physical characteristics, that's what ours looks like. Neptune was carrying a pitchfork, and one of them had a forked tail, and another one had horns, and so they sort of mixed all of that together. So to get a really 100% evil being, you've got to have a 100% good being. And so that's why the whole deal is sort of, kind of a recent kind of an event. So what does that mean to us? Well, it means, I would say, I think when my grandmother told me that the devil is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Told me that when I was 7. And then said, and he's after you. And it's funny because I had dreams over and over and over of a lion getting me every night and carrying me to a cave. I don't remember ever eating me. It just stare at me a lot. And so that's kind of funny, isn't it? And so here's the thing. We talked last week, we're talking about the agreements, and I'm going to get to the first agreement next week. We're talking about the book, The 4 Agreements. We talked last week about the 4 agreements, and we talked about the snake and Adam and Eve. And some of you sent me emails and said, well, what's up with this snake? What about the devil? What about Satan? Who is that exactly? And someone said, sometimes I hear him in my head. Do you? Let me give you a mental health question. We always need a mental health question. The mental health question is this. Do you talk to yourself? And everybody says yes. And again, my parents told me that, it's okay to talk to yourself as long as you don't answer yourself. But don't you answer yourself too? I mean, most everybody does. And so where's that voice coming from? And we'll get into more detail next week. But where does that voice come from? It's very important to think about where the voice comes from. Do you know what I mean, the voice inside your head? This is a voice that takes both sides of the conversation. I should ask her to marry me. What, are you crazy? You're not going to ask her to marry you. I mean, why would you do that? Well, I do love her. Well, yeah, but you loved everybody, so you don't really want to do that. I mean, think about when you loved, Ethel Jones. You really got in trouble that time, and so you got to be careful. Yeah, but I think I know what I'm doing. And you know that. The conversations go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Even if the conversation is going on and you know that it's a lie, you know that it's wrong, you know it's not true. You know it's not true. The conversation just keeps going. Have you noticed that? I'm walking in my neighborhood, minding my own business. And then I hear the voice in my head say, look at that dog over there. There's another dog. And that dog reminds me of the little dog I had when I was a little boy named Skipper. There's a Buick. I had a Buick back in 1973. It's a different color. I wonder whatever happened to my Buick. That's letting you in on, like a minute of my conversation. Now, I'm just walking down the road. And it's like Saturday Night Live did a skit once, and they said, it wouldn't be great if you had someone to narrate your life as you're kind of walking around. Or music playing, you walk into the room, the music goes, but that's what it does. It narrates our life for us. It's going all the time. Tell you something about the voice. Imagine a flower pot. Can you see the flower pot? The flower pot, the microphone, and the guitar. You can look at those and you recognize, oh, I see them up there. They're not part of you. I see them. But what about this voice? And I want to tell you something you may already know, but the voice isn't you. You're the one listening. The voice, like you look at the flower pot, you listen to the voice. But the voice isn't you. God, that is so important, because if you think the voice is you, if you think the voice is telling you the truth, and the voice says to you, you're all messed up. It's funny, if the voice says you're all messed up, and then an hour later it says you're really quite nice. You know which one's lying. When it says you're quite nice, you know that's not true. That's what people usually think. And so they think some of the voice is real in me and some of it is not. I want you to begin to think of it this way. The voice is simply not you. It is your brain talking. And your brain talks 24/7. Now you could say, shut up. But you can't stop the voice by yelling at it. In fact, the more you yell at it, the more it's going to talk. It talks more when you need it the least. When the pressure is on. You're going for a job interview. Your voice goes crazy with that. You're on your first date with somebody and your voice is screaming at you. So when you need it the least, that's when it's the most active. The voice is going all the time. Why do we have that voice? Now, do you know what I'm talking about? All of you do have a voice, right? In fact, we have lots of voices, don't we? Not just one. We have lots of voices. I'm suggesting none of the voices are you. None of them are you. And so as all of these voices are talking, and you're living your life, here's what and this is the only big point I can make, other than saying the voices are you. But I want you to know this, and this is frightening. That voice that talks all the time inside of your head, if you listen long enough, you'll begin to notice themes. And the themes may involve you being an idiot. It may involve you feeling guilty. It may involve you feeling disempowered. It may involve you being not worth very much. Now you're thinking, yeah, that's me all right, but that's because I'm not worth very much, or that's because something's wrong with me. But see, we all feel this, everybody, one way or the other. We just think we're the only ones. But all of us have this little voice talking. That little voice isn't an angel. And that little voice is not the devil. It's just your brain. Well, there must be some good reason for having it. Why do you have it? You know, your voice talks the same reason. One reason is because the same reason that a tea kettle whistles. Because steam builds up. Energy builds up. It's got to get out somehow, so your brain goes. I'm in a tent. I wake up this has been several years ago, to the sound of a turtle dove. Oh, I love that sound. I was there a few nights, and the next morning, I woke up to another sound. It was the sound of a shotgun, fairly close to the tent. I got both of that information through my ear. One of them I really liked. One of them I didn't like at all. But they're just sounds. You know why I like one better than the other? Because I interpreted the sounds. The dove reminded me of my old Kentucky home. The shotgun said, watch out, I may be in trouble. Someone may be going to hurt me. I better do something. But both were just sounds. And so my old teacher friend told me this, Bill, as long as you wear this hat of judgment, so that you like the turtle dove and you hate the sound of the shotgun, as long as you see the difference and you like one and hate the other, you, my friend, will be in prison. Do you see what I mean? So when that voice says something really nice, just do your thing. You know what you're doing. Do your thing. If the voice says something really negative, don't jump on the bandwagon and go with that, because that makes no sense. Because it's just a voice. It's just a voice. The final thing I'll say is this. Why does that voice babble so much? I'll say more about it next week, but there must be a reason. You know, Dr. Phil says, whatever you do, you're getting something out of it. So why would you listen to that negative voice so much? And I thought of a reason. Can you think of the reason?
Because you can be victimized.
Because you can be victimized?
You get to be.
You get to be victimized and you don't have to try.
You don't.
You don't have to try. I'm thinking about doing something great. Then the voice goes off. Now you have one voice that's saying, yeah, do it. Another voice saying, you can't do that, you're crazy. And then you choose which one you're going to listen to. And that way you don't have to try. You can just kind of roll up in a ball and go to sleep. So that's what we're going to talk about. So my encouragement for you this week is this. Listen to the voice. And we're going to begin to add 4 agreements in next week. But listen to the voice. I want you to program your own voices. And remember, if it's going off in your brain, that's just what your brain does. Your brain can't walk around, but your brain sure can talk. And it may be true, may not be. Just talking. Just talking. But don't you let that talking determine what you become. That's what's deadly. Don't allow the talking to determine what you don't do. Don't let the talking determine what you do. You decide what you're going to do. You're in charge. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.